Good evening and welcome to Adelaide Oval. Our coverage of the first test shortly. But first, the family of a CFS firefighter killed in the state's southeast has given an insight into the devastating circumstances of the tragedy. The 65-year-old was run over by a CFS truck driven by a close colleague, and one of the first police officers to arrive at the scene was his own son.
Loved ones arrived at the scene to try to understand, but it's unlikely they ever will. Brian Johnston was a community hero, and more than that, a husband, a brother, a father of two, and a grandfather of 6.
The kids, I think, were worse than us initially. I was just a little numb, and I think it's been harder this morning.
He was well respected, well liked, always available to help out and do things in the community.
It was that desire to help that at 4:30 yesterday would cost him his life. Called to a grass fire at Rendlesham, he was standing behind his ute when a CFS vehicle struck.
I feel for the poor bloke that ran into him too. That would be awful.
The driver was one of Brian's mates, now devastated and unfortunately at the centre of an investigation. Brian's son Daniel is a fellow volunteer. He wasn't there yesterday, but in a cruel coincidence, his brother Jeremy was one of the first police officers to respond.
When my brother rocked up, the group officer came across and said it was Dad, and Jeremy was there holding his hand when he died.
There was nothing extraordinary about this relatively small grass fire. In fact, Brian Johnston would have been called to thousands just like this before. He'd been in the CFS since he was 16 years old. Next year, he would have celebrated 50 years in the service.
He would have seen Ash Wednesday all the way through to where he was involved in dealing with a quadruple fatality here only last week.
This is Brian Johnston at that crash in Adelaide, less than 20 kilometres from where he was killed. A nightmare 6 weeks for the CFS, which also lost another volunteer in the mid-north in October.
We'll be supporting each other as families do.
A family that goes to amazing lengths to serve others. Even as their mate lay dead on the side of the road yesterday, they extinguished this fire before it reached a nearby home. In the state's southeast, Ben Avery, 9 News.